Office of Advanced. I'm in the Office of Advanced Cyber Infrastructure, and I'm also a rotator from Clemson University, which might be relevant in just a minute. So I'm going to talk to you about resources that are available from NSF that can help you in your research and teaching, cyber infrastructure resources, and also a few funding opportunities that may be relevant to you. So I can see a lot of the people in the room. I don't know if I can see everybody that's in the room. Are you guys faculty in some way? Are you research IT staff? Are you administrative staff in some way? How many are faculty? Okay, how many work in research IT? Okay, are there folks there from, say, sponsored programs or anything like that? Okay, so mostly research IT. Okay, that sounds good. And is your expertise across the board in terms of the sciences? Are you, computer science, chemistry, biology, or just kind of across the board? You can talk to me. Okay, how many would claim to be computer scientists? A couple. Okay, so not mostly computer science. That's fine. That's great, in fact. Okay, so OAC supports computing, data, networking, and cybersecurity infrastructure and expertise for the sciences across the board in the National Science Foundation. And so you see here some images of the computing, supercomputers that are supported, community building, like some of the efforts that you're doing right now, cybersecurity and networking. We're going to talk about a resource that can help you there, and also software frameworks and gateways. Many students and researchers are supported by these resources. So this is kind of a busy page. I believe I've shared these slides, and if I have not, then remind me and I'll resend them. So the upper left-hand quadrant here is a few of the umbrella projects that sit over some of the resources. So Access, which you're probably familiar with, is an umbrella project that sits over a number of the supercomputing resources that you can access. The NAIR pilot, this bluish one here, also is an umbrella project that sits over not just supercomputing resources, but also data and AI resources of different kinds. And I'm going to spend a bit of time talking about NAIR. There's also PATH and NRP, which are umbrella projects that sit over a number of distributed computing and storage resources that you can get to almost immediately. And then there's a science gateway that has gateways for pretty much every science. If you're a chemistry researcher and you want to run a particular chemistry application, there's a good chance that there's a science gateway that will help you with that. So the URLs for these are in this lower right-hand corner down here. You see Access and NAIR Pilot and PATH and so on. This lower left corner is community and workforce development. And I believe many of you are already familiar with CARC, the Campus Research Computing Consortium. It's a good place to meet folks that will help you in a peer kind of way. So you join CARC as an individual, not as an institution. And if you're interested in finding people who are using, who are supporting, who are building cyber infrastructure in some way, then I would encourage you to go to this website and learn more about CARC. MSCC is an organization that is composed of primarily minority serving institutions. And there's also Trusted CI here. So this upper right-hand quadrant is a set of URLs, and you'll have the slides. You don't have to madly write these down. But they give you links to the places where you can find out more about training opportunities. And the second one right here is the OSG training materials site. It's kind of a long URL. If I have time, I'm going to visit that later in this talk and show you some of the stuff that you can get to. And if I don't have time, then you can go to that URL on your own. Okay, so NAIR pilot, we're about 2/3 of the year through year 2 of NAIR pilot. And the NAIR is, the idea is to accelerate US global AI leadership and unlock AI opportunity across society. So there are several components of it. There's a computing and a software component. There are also educational materials and training tools. There are AI data sets and models that are accessible, along with user support and expertise. And all of this is available through a central portal. The URL for that is nairpilot.org down here at the bottom. So you may be familiar with Access. You may also be somewhat familiar with Nair. The difference between Access and Nair is that Nair includes partnerships with industry partners. Access is primarily supported by National Science Foundation. Nair includes partnerships with industry and also with other federal labs. So this image here shows an example partnership between NVIDIA and the National Science Foundation. NVIDIA provides access to the NVIDIA DGX Cloud. And as a researcher or educator, you can get access to that through the Nair pilot. So lots of resources have been contributed. I'm going to show you some of them. Researchers across the country are investigating fundamental AI and applied AI for science topics. There's lots of dots here. Each of those dots represents some kind of resource or award that has been provided through the Nair pilot. And there are some there's some dots in Pennsylvania and in your general region up here. We want to make more dots, and so I would encourage you to help us build this map out. Pretty much every science area that NSF supports has been supported by Nair resources in some way. So there's a lot of computer science and AI, but there are also projects in physics, in astronomy, in geology, and so on. So many hundreds of projects have been supported through Nair allocations. So this is a screenshot of the Nair pilot webpage, and I'm going to stop sharing my slides right now. And instead, I'm going to share my webpage so that we can actually step through this and look at it. Okay, so I'm looking at my browser right now at the Nair pilot webpage, and you can do this too if you like. The URL is nairpilot, Nairr pilot.org. And when you first get onto the website, you see a bunch of numbers here. These are the projects that have been supported, the states that have been represented by those projects that are supported. Classroom, they're both research and education or classroom awards, and other things, community workshops. I'm going to skip down to the bottom just a little bit and show you that there's a place here where you can see projects that have been supported by Nair, generally through allocations. So there's a large number of them, and you can click through here and see if there are any projects like yours. And if there are projects like yours, then that might give you an idea of how you can use the Nair to support your research project. So I encourage you, if you have, especially if you haven't used Nair, to browse through these projects and see the kinds of things that have been supported through Nair. Okay, so now let me go back up to the top. I'm going to expand this slightly and hope it don't break it. All right. So these are the current opportunities that are available through the Nair. And there are 4 of them. One of them disappeared today. Okay. That's why I do this from the web page, not from slides. Okay, so I'm going to read these from the bottom up and show you how you can get access to the Nair resources. So the one here at the bottom is on data. Let me click on that. Notice it has the word freely accessible there. So to get to most of these data sets, in fact, to get to all of these data sets, you don't have to write a proposal of any kind. You just click on them. So you can go and click on these. There are all kinds of data sets. There's the cell painting gallery. There are an AI training program from DOE. There's a physics data set here. If you scroll down, there's some large language models from NASA. So lots of AI related data sets, but also like a NOAA tropical cyclone prediction data set. This PatchDB data set, if you're doing cybersecurity research and you want access to a data set that has information about patches, then you might find this one to be interesting. Or maybe you want to teach a class on cybersecurity. There are multiple pages here. If I keep going just a little bit further, if you want to teach a class on text mining or text analysis, then you might be interested in this patent office data set, where you could go and get basically all of the patents that are available. So these data sets have been curated and they're AI ready, and you can access them for free. All you have to do is click on them. Also, along here, there is one of these links for models. And if I click on that, I clicked on it. If I click on that, then I see the models that have been provided through other federal agencies. So there's this NASA Science Large Language Model. There's a training data set here from USGS and so on. So these are the ones that have been provided by other federal agencies. There are also some resources from industry partners that you get to in a different place. So this is the data. You can click on that, freely accessible. The next one I want to talk about is, they rearranged these. Let me go ahead and click on startup projects. So one of the things that you will have to do if you want to apply for educational resources or research resources is you'll have to write a short proposal. And in the proposal, you will have to justify what you're asking for. You can't just say, I need 100 GPUs because my application's really hard. You can't say that. You have to explain what you need and why you need it. And maybe you don't know the answer to that question. So we have the ability here to get a startup allocation. And by the way, you can do exactly the same thing in Access is in this part. You can get an Access startup allocation just like you can get a NAIR startup allocation. So the idea here is to get access to some relatively modest number of GPU hours, some relatively modest number of CPU hours on a somewhat limited set of resources, but big enough that you can test your application and get an understanding of how long does what kind of GPU do I need? How long will my application run on that GPU? If I need to run my application, 100 times, then I need a total amount of access of this many hours of GPU access. And same thing for CPU, and also memory, and also storage. One of the resources that's available here is called ASIS, this ASIS resource. It is a reconfigurable supercomputer. And so the idea with ASIS is you can configure it with, say this much memory and this many GPUs and this many nodes altogether, and run your application and test it, do performance analysis, and then go back and reconfigure it with, this much memory and this many GPUs and this many nodes, and then run it again and get your performance testing results from it. And so from that, you can get a better understanding of what the requirements are for your application. So if you want to do a startup application, there are some expectations. The most significant one is you have to share your abstract. Just like on the bottom of that page I just showed you where you're reading about all the projects that were supported, they want you to be able to communicate also back to the community. So read the web page carefully and understand what the expectations are. And for NAIR, there is an expectation that your project will somehow be aligned with AI. So using AI in some way or studying how to improve AI in some way is an expectation of the NAIR. If your application is a traditional simulation model, or you're doing data analytics that really does not include AI in any way, then you would probably be better off going to Access rather than the NAIR. But the processes are very similar, and in both cases, you will have to justify the resource that you're requesting. So here, in this startup, I can start my submission this way. You have to log in, and so I'm an IPA from Clemson University and happen to have a Clemson user ID that's a .edu address, so I can authenticate with CI login using my Clemson email address, and it's not doing this. Oh, here we go. Okay, so I'm logged in, and you can see here what's needed for the startup application. You have to have a title, you have to have your abstract that you're willing to share with everybody. You have to have some keywords, maybe I'm doing computational chemistry. You have to pick a field of science, and I'm a computer scientist, so I would probably pick computer scientist. And you can add more than one if you want. You have to list who's going to be the personnel, so you can put your name, and then if you have a postdoc or a lead TA, maybe you want to put those names. Other collaborators. The collaborators for the NAIR have to be U.S. based. US-based researchers or students at a US-based institution. So if you have a project that's collaborative with, I don't know, say someone in Canada, then they can use it from Canada if they're using Access. But if they're using NAIR resources, then it has to be a US-based researcher at a US-based institution. And then there's a place down here to put supporting grants. So you do not have to have an existing grant to get an allocation on the NAIR, whether it's startup or research or education, if you have a grant, then if you put it in there, then they will use that information to help evaluate the science that you're proposing. So if you have a funded award, then that's pretty strong evidence that someone has peer reviewed it and it's quality science. If you don't have an award, then it may go through one more level of examination to make sure that you're not Bitcoin mining or something like that. Okay, so you fill out all these fields, not too hard for the startup allocation. You pick a resource, and I'll talk about that in just a minute, but take your best shot, pick a resource, and you do have to describe what it is that you need. And so you can do that somewhere in here. Well, maybe not on the startup allocation. On the startup allocation, I think you just pick a resource. And then you have to submit your CV. So, do that. These are almost always granted. The reason something might not be granted is because you left something out, so you didn't include the public abstract or something like that. So as long as you include all of the information and it looks reasonably legitimate, you have a title here that looks legitimate, then your chances of being funded for a startup application are very, very high. Let's see, actually, I want to go back to here. Kill that. Okay, so that's the startup allocation. So now I have a startup allocation and I'm able to test my application and understand what kind of resources I need. So now I can either get educational resources because I'm teaching class, or I could get research resources. And this is NAIR Pilot Classroom, are the educational resources. Now, at any point along the way, if you have a question, submit a ticket. So let's say you're teaching a class and it's mostly not about AI, it's mostly about, ecology. But you do use some AI in there. So you might want to ask a question, does it have enough AI in it to justify a request to NAIR Pilot? Can I get the answer to that before I go through the trouble of writing a, entire proposal? So submit a ticket. They're pretty responsive. I did this and it took about an hour, so I was very pleased with that. There is a limited number of resources that you can request for education, but they will generally meet the needs for a classroom. These last two are desktop resources, and these are kind of cool. If you have, let's say, 30 students, and you want to run what kind of looks like a computer lab, you have a set of software, and you want all the students to go through the software in some kind of similar way. But you don't have a room that they can sit in, and you don't have a set of computers that you can configure with all the software that you want them to have. You can download these desktop applications, configure them for the students, and then they can run it on their own laptop in an ordinary classroom like the one you're sitting in. So it's a way to kind of build a computer lab on the fly. So those are educational resources. And then research resources, same thing. If you have a question, submit a ticket, pretty straightforward. Eligibility is the same. You have to be US-based researcher or educator from a US-based institution. And your focus area has to have something to do with AI for NAIR. Now, if it's access, then that restriction is not there. Okay, and there's a long list of resources here. So you'll see all your favorite supercomputers. You'll also see all your favorite cloud resources. There is a resource here called Fabric, which is a national network test bed. So if you're a network researcher and you want to run a latency experiment across the continental United States, then you can do that with Fabric. There are also a number of AI data sets and resources, this Databricks intelligence platform and Hugging Face and some other things down there. So a lot of different resources. One question you may have is, how do I know what to do? So submit a ticket and see if you can and get some answers that way. Okay, so let me pause there just a second and see if there's any questions, and then I will keep going with my slides. I can hear that maybe someone's talking, but I can't hear you.
Hey, Amy, there was some discussion about, in addition to submitting a ticket, do they have like open office hours or anything like that if you're like trying to discuss your use case with someone?
They do. So it was on that web page. I believe they have an office hour on Tuesdays, maybe once a month, and Wednesdays. maybe once a month. So I don't know if you have to sign up or if you can just show up. I think you can just show up and get some of your questions answered in that way. Also, each of those individual resources like Jetstream or Delta AI, they also have staff that can provide specific answers. If you say, well, I got an allocation on Delta AI, now what do I do? Then the Delta AI folks can help you understand how to get onto that system. So the answer is yes. Okay, so I already showed you on the web page some of the data sets. These are some icons that illustrate those. And I also showed you on the web page some of the resources. And here are some more icons for the resources that are available. Again, all your favorite supercomputers, all your favorite clouds, and many different kinds of AI resources and classroom desktop resources. Okay, so how does this work? If you want to get a research allocation, then you need to write what is approximately a 3-page proposal. And the classroom application was actually shorter. It's, you say, I'm teaching this class, and here's my syllabus, and it's this many students, and so on. The research proposal must include a description of a real, ongoing, or proposed project. So this can be education or research. Read that web page to see who's, your eligibility, available resources, review criteria, and project expectations, like your public abstract. The education projects require details of the course description. The research projects require alignment with NAIR pilot focus area, which basically has to do something with AI. And a research justification, including a description of the technical approach. So important, you have to provide an estimate of the resources that the science needs to be successful. So measure and justify this. Don't just say, I need some GPUs, but give runtimes and runtime requirements that must be met for the success of the project. And so that's where that startup allocation can come in. So here's how the review process works. Researcher submits a three-page resource request through the portal, goes into the portal, goes through a quick validation check to make sure it's complete. There is an independent peer review to make sure it's aligned with the NAIR pilot focus areas. And then there's a matching committee. So let's say I request access on Delta AI. But Delta AI is fully utilized right now. And if they give me an allocation on Delta AI, I may have to wait a long time to actually get access to it. So what the matching committee will do is they will take the description of the resources that you need. So I need this many GPUs of this kind for this many hours. And they will match that with a resource that is actually available. And then you will be notified and connected with your awarded resource. So this review process takes a month, maybe 2, much less time than a full NSF proposal. These are almost always funded. If something is not funded, it's probably because you left something out. And the thing that's most commonly left out is the justification of the resource that you need. So if you don't provide a justification, then it might not get funded, and you'll get returned, and then you rewrite it, and then you resubmit, and you'll do it better next time, and then you'll get funded. Okay, so I do have a description of a couple of projects that are kind of under NAIR, but also kind of freestanding. You may be familiar with OSG. PATH is an umbrella project that sits over OSG, and also OSDF, the Open Science Data Federation. So this map here on the top are the campus locations of computing resources, actually computing, storage, and network resources that have been funded and are coordinated by PATH. This map here on the bottom are the storage resources, the Open Science Data Federation. So it includes the origin, the source of the data, and caching locations. And I haven't updated this map in a while. I suspect there are a lot more dots on this map than this is. And you guys are probably also familiar with the regional research and education networks in the United States. This map here on the lower left is provided by the Quilt, which is an organization of RENs throughout the United States. So all of these work together to provide a distributed computing environment that you can actually get to pretty easily. So remind me when I'm supposed to stop talking. I think it's noon, but Help me remember that.
Yes, noon.
Noon. Okay. I'm going to do one more thing. Since I just showed you path, let me bring up my browser again. Let me share my browser. This is high risk. I've not done this before. The demo always works, right? Okay. If you go to that second URL that I told you about on that slide way back close to the beginning, I said there's a box of URLs and there are 4 of them in there. And that second one, which is the OSG training materials URL. If you will go to that URL, then from that URL, you can click into the very first tutorial. And the very first tutorial is getting started on OSG or OS Pool. So OS Pool is the part of OSG that's at universities. So getting started on OS Pool. And one of the things that you'll see is a set of slides. You'll also see a little video tutorial. And you'll also see within the set of slides a link. I didn't log out. What if I can make this go away so I can log out? I'm afraid to touch it. All right, so I tested this right before the talk, and it's not going to let me show the steps. If you go to that URL, which is basically osg-htc.org, and click on it, it'll make you log in using CI login, and then it will take you to a place where you can click on this Jupyter Lab notebook. So in the Jupyter Lab, actually, I might be able to hit the back button right here. Nope. Okay, in the Jupyter Lab notebook, there are a few things that you can click on, a few example tutorials. So this particular tutorial is FastQC. It's one of them that you can click on. And it's a nice sort of brief bioinformatics tutorial that lets you step through how to use Jupyter Notebook. So I clicked on this IPyNB file, and it brings up a Jupyter Notebook. So I am in a Python environment, and the cool thing about this is that I'm running it in my browser, but from this Python environment, I can actually submit jobs to OSG. And if you can do this with bioinformatics, you can do this with any software that you may want to configure. So I'm not going to click through this. I just want to show you, the kind of what is here and how you could use it. So you're in this Python environment. I can execute these commands. Shift Enter executes a command. And so it works like a command line environment. It's telling me about my data, my software. I'm going to build a job. So there's already some source code that's available. And this tutorial is going to run it on my behalf. I create a list of data sets, a list of samples, a list of data sets, and I'm going to run first one job on OSG and watch it run. Okay, that's cool. And then I'm going to submit a set of jobs, in this case, a modest number of 10, I think. I'm going to submit a jobs that run all at once on OSG. So I'll be using high throughput computing running on this distributed computing platform from my browser. So I don't have to have any special equipment or computer to do this. And so you scale up to a list of jobs, and in the end, you have run a set of analysis jobs across a set of resources in a single step and gotten the results back at a place where you can look at them. Okay, so I was going to show you that. I'm going to stop that share now. Go back to my slides. So the nice thing about OSG and also NDP in this next slide is that these do not require allocations. You just use them. So you can use a guest account on OSG to do what I just did. And then if you want to do a little more, you want to get actually a lot of resources, then you can apply for an account. And I think the only requirement is that you have to have a .edu email address. And so you'll get a guest account, and then you can run jobs on OS Pool directly. NDP is like Path, only different. It's a set of resources, both compute and storage, that are shared across the United States. The URL for, I said NDP, NRP, National Research Platform, NDP is National Data Platform, which they're related. So NRP.ai is the place to get to the NRP information. I wanted to call this one out because in their pilot, NRP has been used to support a number of their pilot classrooms. So those educational resources that I talked about. And this is a photo here of a faculty member at UC Berkeley who's teaching a class with 122 students. So, I don't know when it meets, Tuesday, Thursday, at 11 o'clock, all semester long. And he's teaching a class on coding with large language models. And he has developed a set of classroom resources using NRP that he has the students download to their laptops, and then they run the code that he has configured for them. And in the process of doing that, they learn about large language models. So he's preparing students for an AI-driven future, hosting these large language models locally, integrated AI with the Jupyter Notebook. So the tool, NRP, and the classroom resources are enabling students and researchers to easily build applications using large language models. Now, I understand this guy likes to give talks. If this is interesting to you and you'd like to learn more about it, then his URL is here for his class, and you can contact him and say, that was really interesting. I would like to learn more about how you use NRP to support your classroom environment for 122 students. Okay, now I'm going to talk about 3 collaborative projects, and this is not that much different from what you guys are already doing. And so I should probably update my slide to include exactly what you're doing. So this is a planning award from CC Star. This is an award to the University of Miami, and he has included, the PI here is Ravi Vadapalli. Ravi has included universities up and down the Florida coast, not that far away from each other. So some big, like Florida Atlantic University, some really tiny ones, like Barry University, I'd never heard of. And their goal is to build this regional partnership for science and cyber infrastructure engagement. So they are sharing resources or aiming to share resources for common goals. They've held 3 different workshops, maybe not that different from the workshop and meeting that you guys are holding, and brought people together with the goal of sharing expertise and building this community support. So that's one of them. Another one is a much larger geographic area. So this is across the state of Nevada, and it's basically state institutions in the state of Nevada. So these institutions were competing against each other in maybe a not completely healthy way. So what they did is they leveraged the REN, the Regional Research and Education Network, as a neutral institution, neutral organization, to pull them together so that they could begin to think about how to share and cooperate with respect to cyber infrastructure. They had a historical lack of IT investment, and they recognized that, and so they wanted to also use this consortium to help promote investment in research cyber infrastructure. They established a statewide research, computing, and development office with office hours. They ran some workshops, and two of their goals, to develop institutional CI plans across all of the institutions represented, and also a statewide CI plan. So they held a workshop. They cleverly made an acronym that made it NVDICE. And they held a workshop at Las Vegas, which was, of course, a nice thing, right during the time when I could not travel. So I did not get to go to that one. Okay, and then the third example is state of California. This is not the UC Berkeley's. This is a project led by UC Merced, right in the middle of the state. I think UC Merced is an R2, although I'll have to double check on that. They built a consortium of Central Valley institutions all the way up and down the state of California. They do have a compute award, so there's a shared campus cluster at UC Merced. But in addition to that, they ran a workshop last year, and they're going to run another one this coming fall, or no, maybe it's next spring, to bring together all these people. So it's about a 4 or 5 hour drive to drive from the Northern University down to Merced, another 5 hours or so down to the southern ones. And they pulled people together to get them to talk about how they could share cyber infrastructure. Okay, so that's the list of resources that I wanted to talk about. And I'll spend a little bit of time talking about funding opportunities for from the Office of Advanced Cyber Infrastructure. So let me pause right there since I'm kind of shifting gears and see if there are any questions.
Don't see any.
No questions. Okay. So I think I've got about a half a dozen of these. This solicitation has the acronym CSSI, and I think of it as the data and software solicitation. It has three versions, sort of a small one, kind of a large one that's collaborative and interdisciplinary, and one that's transition to sustainability. If you already have a system and you want to harden it for long-term impact. So the idea with CSSI is, let's say I have a software tool that I'm using. Maybe it does data wrangling for data in my field. Maybe I'm a chemist. And this is really useful for my team. In fact, I shared it with some of my colleagues, and I would like to build it out, make it more robust so that I could share it with my entire chemistry community. So that would be a candidate for a CSSI Elements project where you're going to build the software system. You've already got an idea, some components of it working, and you would want to build it out for a particular science domain. And you can see that CSSI has funded these projects in almost every area that NSF supports. It's very interdisciplinary. You can also request funding if you have a larger project that is a large interdisciplinary team, then you can request a larger amount of money. The second solicitation is called IDSS. It just came out. It is support for an operations level, national scale system and services that advance AI and AI-driven research. So the idea here is to connect data sources with AI and analytics environments and data-intensive workflows to manage the data lifecycle at a national scale. It does not support permanent long-term storage, curation of data, or projects that focus on a single science domain. It's a national multidisciplinary resource. So there are three categories. The first one, they're going to award one or maybe two national scale systems and services up to as much as $30 million for 5 years. Category two is, let's say there's already a regional system out there, but you want to scale it up to national capability. Then category two will fund the transition of that to a national scale system. And category three is a planning grant. So this just came out. It has a deadline in December, early December. This next one, if some of you are computer scientists or maybe you support faculty that are computer scientists, NSF has changed the way that it receives research proposals from computer scientists. It used to be called CORE, and now it's called Future CORE. And one of the changes is there's a single class of projects now with a maximum budget of up to $1 million. So no smalls and mediums and larges. One class of projects. Target dates only, no deadline. So write your best proposal and submit it when it's ready. Don't submit it before it's ready. Target dates only. A broad set of areas. It includes everything that CORE used to include plus a couple more. There is more information available via email. So I would encourage you, if this sounds interesting, to Google NSF space 25-543 and read the solicitation carefully. And then there are several emails there that you can send email to. One is related to robotics. One is related to computer systems. And so send email to get more information about the solicitation. This has a deadline. No deadline. Target dates only. The next one is CICI, and this is a cybersecurity solicitation with basically four kinds of tracks. One is a research track, usable and collaborative security for science. So if you want to investigate a process or system that would enable better cybersecurity, then this is a good target for you. The second one is developing data sets. So maybe curating a data set that could be used for cybersecurity research. The third one is transition to resilience. So the idea here is you have a working system and you want to make it hardened and maybe find more sustainable funding for it. So transition to cybersecurity resilience. And this last one is new. It is integrity, provenance, and authenticity for AI-ready data sets. How do you know that the data set that you're using for AI hasn't been altered maliciously in some way that would cause the large learning model to learn the wrong thing? And so that's a research problem, and CC will support that. This has a deadline in January, so there's time to think about that one. This next one also has a deadline in January. This is cyber training. This is a program that will fund the contributors who develop new capabilities, like software engineers or not facilitators, but software engineers, software architects, those who develop, or maybe developing new materials, new training materials. And then also the users who are researchers and educators who exploit those new capabilities. So it does not include facilitators. That's not in this list. But the idea here is to prepare, nurture, and grow the national scientific research workforce for creating and utilizing advanced cyber infrastructure. Okay, and this last one has a deadline in April, so it's quite a bit ahead of us, but I can make you aware of it, and then you can investigate it if you want to, if it's a good fit for you. It supports sustainable open science, and this is an acronym: findable, accessible, interoperable, and reusable data sets for open science. And this is a research problem. How can you build a portal or have appropriate metadata standards or research data commons for a particular scientific area with its data sets? And so the idea here is to build these sustainable, resilient data sets. In all of these, if you think that your idea might be a good fit, then what I would encourage you to do is first read the solicitation carefully. So you can Google it directly, Google NSF space 25-533, and read the solicitation carefully. And then compose an email that says a little bit about what your idea is. And then the question is my idea a good fit for your program? So you can't ask a program officer, will you fund my idea? Because they can't answer that question. They don't know. It depends on the peer review and other things. But you can ask, is my idea a good fit for your program? And if it is, they'll say so. Yes, this is a good idea. And they might give a little bit of guidance in there. If it's not, they'll say that too. And it's much better to find out in an email whether or not your idea is a good fit than to write a 15-page proposal, submit it, and find out a few months later that it wasn't a good fit at all, and the reviewers didn't like it, didn't think it was fundable under that program. So it is always a good idea to email the program officer or the email address on these pages and ask, is my idea a good fit for your program? That's the end of my slides. And I still have like a minute if you have any questions. I've got my email address here. I'm happy to take your emails and answer questions. And hopefully this was helpful to you. I see one hand in the back.
Yeah, thanks so much, Amy. We have some questions.
Thank you so much, Amy. I'm sitting here in the grants area. And we were wondering, with the NAIR pilot startup grants, what is the range of support funding and that's possible to get through that?
So with NAIR pilot, you're getting access to resources right now. So there's no funding, with a couple of exceptions. They come out from time to time with these special calls. But the things that I showed you on the web pages are largely resources like computers or software systems or things like that. And the answer is you kind of get what you ask for. Now, if you ask for something ridiculous, you probably won't get that. But if you can make the case that you need what you're asking for, then there's a good chance you'll actually get it. Now, you don't necessarily get it all at once. Ask for something that you're going to use in the next, I don't know, 3 to 6 months and use it, and then ask for some more. And that's actually fine.
Hi, Amy. I was wondering if you could comment on the potential for a NSF campus cyber infrastructure solicitation.
Good question. So unfortunately, I don't know the answer to that question. I would love to know the answer to that question. We're working with the administration, and it's not dead. But I don't really have any information on that. I know that the community is very eager, and we appreciate your patience.
Other questions? Okay, well, let's give Amy a thank you here.
Thank you. You guys are great. Keep up
Thanks.
the great work. Thank you, Wayne.
Appreciate it.
Yeah.